You're listening to the Recovered Life Show.
So, Kristina, moving in, we've got even more show for you today, guys, if you're listening. And I love this one. This was so great. I found this article, and it was from the Daily Mail it was really about this person's journey in being 6 months, what was it, 6 years sober?
6 years sober. So she was pre-pandemic, but the article really described some of the people that we've talked about previously, and it described like the serious problem that's happened in the pandemic. Now it's out of UK from the Daily Mail, and what it shares is something that I thought was really striking. According to the figures over there, that there are 8 million people who are drinking at hazardous levels in the 3 months from October 21st until October 19th, compared to 5 million. So it's gone up by 3 million. And they're saying that's all over, not just England. It's all over the UK. And so her article is really timely because it discusses exactly, even though it's still dangerous, more dangerous for men than women, women are closing the gaps. So 4 out of 10 are presumed to be dangerous drinkers, where it used to be 1 out of 10 for women, and it's now growing closer to the male figure. So it's something for all of us to think about. Her take is beautiful, though, don't you think?
It is. I mean, what I pulled out of this, was the whole thing about, and for those of you guys that are watching on the live stream, I've got it here. Obviously, I brought it up on stream. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm just showing this article from the Daily Mail. And basically, what I really got out of this was how she broke it down into situations about being sober. And I like that. And one of the things that she said was trying to fit into a drinker's world about this. I have to drink a non-alcoholic faux wine beverage or a non-alcoholic drink, and I have to pretend I have to do this, about how much energy goes out at trying to fit into a drinker's world when you're not a drinker anymore.
So true. I mean, first of all, she doesn't describe any kind of bottom. I don't see where she calls herself an alcoholic, but she said, I was drinking way too much. I didn't know the number because I didn't want to know the number. And so if you're out there, you don't need to label yourself if you want to try this drinking experience or non-drinking experiment. But she then goes on to say that even after so many years, there's still an effort to want to fit in. And it was very interesting how she talked about the 2 questions that people asked her. The first one was, how much do you drink? Because they obviously wanted to compare themselves. And I have experienced this over the years. I'm sure you have too, where it's like, well, wait, what happened? And the second one was, how do you survive in a world without alcohol? And, we're here to share that you can survive in a world without alcohol very well. I mean, she talks about those gifts.
Anybody who's in recovery that's listening to this, who's been sober for any period of time, there's a couple of things that definitely are going to happen. And, when people that are new to recovery say, tell me some things that are definitely going to happen in the future. And I said, the people who struggle with alcohol or controlled drinking, that's in your friend or family sphere, right? If they're in your world, if they're in your orbit, they're going to be the most vocal about you being in recovery. They're going to ask the most questions. And, one of the things that I think if you've been sober for a while, somebody will pull you over in a party and say, listen, I'm concerned about Bob. I'm concerned about Sue.
Right.
I think they're drinking too much. And then they'll go into how much they're drinking.
Right.
Well, they had this, but they didn't. And, and my response always, Kristina, to this is it's not the amount that you drink. It's what happens when you drink.
Yes.
Right. Because I know alcoholics that are alcoholics that could have 2 to 3 drinks a night, but they were alcoholics, but it's what happened to them when they drank.
Right. And the need to drink too, the inability to face what's happening in your life, the go-to that this is what's going to help you survive. We did a show recently about the health implications and how much more dangerous they are than most people realize. And if you're drinking, you need to. I mean, they were talking about more than 1 drink a week for some of the health implications that we were talking about. And so it's pretty interesting, our worldview on our right to drink. But if you're having a problem, and yes, you can have a problem with just 2 to 3 glasses of wine a night, and the payoff is worth experimenting. The payoff is worth. We talked about it in dry January. We've talked about gray area drinking, and I just love that there's more articles coming out about
Yeah.
this because
Well,
people don't know.
this is from Anna Pursglove. If anyone wants to look it up, it's from the Daily Mail. And again, we're talking about trying to fit into a drinker's world, Kristina, and this is the thing that's interesting about the whole vernacular of and we went over. It's funny, some of the stuff she has to leave early. Nothing bad will happen, right? And I
Right.
remember we did a shout out to Stacey Danford and Brian O'Shea. We did Holiday Rescue, which was an e-course for people struggling with the holidays. And this was one of the big things, fears that people
Huge.
had was, oh my gosh, if I go to the party, if I used to come early and stay late. And I was the last one
Absolutely.
out. And now they're like, I don't want to do this. Like, I feel
No.
uncomfortable.
No, no, and having a plan, I love that she brings up nothing bad will happen because so much of us, and I was definitely this person, thought, well, the party revolved around me. I had to stay. Well, nobody wanted sloppy, drunk Christina after a couple of hours. And so nothing happens at a party after 9 or 10 o'clock that you have to be there and see, nothing really happens. And so I love that. And having a plan, right? Having a plan walking in, not making it a huge deal that you don't drink. We talked all about that in Holiday Rescue. And I can tell you, I was a food and beverage director in a hotel, which is when they say beverage, they mean alcoholic beverages.
Mhm.
And I was able to attend conferences, attend different kind of seminars, attend and be in the business of it. And no one looked twice, after
Well,
they first
it's,
did
yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's like, a lot of what's going on is in our head, right? Like it's not actually what's really going on. It's like I
Hmm.
used to go to this 12-step meeting in Burbank, and the topic, it was a men's meeting. The topic every week is what's really going on, because what's really going on in the outside world and what's really going on with you is something totally different. Like
So
you
different.
have to meet people where they're at. And I will tell you, like, in early recovery, the thought that everybody knows that I'm sober, that I'm struggling, that I'm going right. These thoughts that we go, and people don't know this. And the whole thing about, um, just the, hey, I'm not drinking. Just say, hey, when somebody offers you a drink, just to say, no, no, thank you. You know,
Hmm.
the amount of drama we know from being recovery coaches, Kristina, the amount of calls and drama that we will get
About going
regarding
to. Yeah.
somebody just asking, a guest asking somebody who's in recovery, would you like a drink? And them saying, being able to say, no, thank you, will
Right.
bring on 5 days of thinking about it.
So true, and it was very hard for me to realize that the world was not watching what I was doing. And that people who aren't alcoholics or don't have problems drinking are not very concerned if I order a Diet Coke or a club soda. They don't care. And the people who do care were people like me. And so we cannot be responsible for their reaction, but we also don't have to tell an entire story when somebody asks us that. You know?
Yeah, one of the things that she brings up here, and I'm just going to read it. It says, the whole thing about being comfortable in in your sober skin, right? And it talks
Mhm.
also about, don't underestimate boredom as a trigger, right? About just the whole thing about being bored. Now, I never really, I'm just gonna be blunt, guys. I heard this early in recovery. Boredom's gonna take you out. Boredom's gonna take you out. I didn't really get that because I was somebody who always felt like I was somebody that always had things in my mind that I could do, right? I was always
Right.
doing things. But boredom is a huge thing, and boredom does take people out.
Well, I'll tell you, I found parties pretty boring after I quit drinking in some ways. I realized very quickly why I was at that party. It wasn't necessarily to meet people, and I had to learn how to do that without, alcohol in my system. I had to learn how to be comfortable in my own skin. And I would say I'm a lot less bored in sobriety than I ever was pre-sobriety. That
Right.
was when I was really bored because I couldn't do anything. And
Yeah.
now the world's open. I can go
Yeah.
anywhere. It doesn't matter what they're doing.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like this whole thing about should I be there? Should I not be there? And I think this is the thing, especially people are listening to this in early sobriety. This is the whole thing. Should I go to the business party? Should I not go? Should I go to these friends? The whole thing, one of the things that's so dramatic about recovery, honestly, and it's unlike any other allergy. If all of a sudden you decided that you were gluten intolerant, right? You wouldn't have to shed friends off for it. You
No,
just say,
not at
sorry,
all.
I couldn't eat that, right?
Yeah,
And they'd make accommodations or you'd make accommodations. It wouldn't be that big deal. Life would go on. But with alcohol and drug recovery, I find that, it is a friend separator a lot of times. There are people that are going to leave. And I think one of the things that I got from this article that I really like that Anna Pursglove kind of addresses here is that, hey, your life's going to change a lot. And
it
the
is.
things that used to be okay for you, and we talk about codependency a lot and things like that. These relationships that used to be okay are these one-sided relationships or drinking only relationships, which everybody
Correct.
has if they come in as an
Yes.
alcoholic. They're no longer okay for you anymore. And it's okay to just let go of those.
It is, but you will gain so much. The loss in the beginning feels really, really big, but the gain, you don't have to be 25 years sober to automatically start seeing some gains. There will be amazing gifts for being willing to walk through this and live a life of sobriety.
Yes, it is. And, I think if anybody's listening to this Anna Pursglove article from the Daily Mail is a really good example that people can and do get sober and they stay sober and they live full lives. She's talking about going to parties, doing things,
Right.
having relationships, living you're full out in recovery. And that's what recovered life is all about, guys.